Ghana's timber industry has been one of the key contributors to the economy over the years. The uses of timber and timber-related products are found in housing, furniture, industry, and many more. However, Ghana's dwindling stock and problems bedeviling the sector have given experts and industry players a cause to worry. It is predicted that if the current trend of forest depletion continues, Ghana may become a net importer of timber and related products instead of a net exporter. In this report, I toured parts of the country to interact with key stakeholders and policymakers in the timber industry to understand the problems and find out how the sector can be salvaged. According to the Ghana Millennium Development Goals 2015 report by the National Development Planning Commission, Ghana lost 2.51 million hectares between 1990 and 2010. This represents about 2.03% depletion per year. A visit to Amasaman, Accra Central, Ashaman timber markets in the Greater Accra region, Sokoban Wood Village in the Ashanti region, and some parts of the Brunahafo region reveal that traders are already feeling the brunt of a mismanaged industry. Mohammed Kamil Isahak is a union leader at the Sokoban Wood Village.
Our expectation was very, very high, but unfortunately of late we have been confronting a lot of problems in terms of how to source wood from the sawmills. So our biggest challenge is the sourcing of wood or lumber from the sawmills. We used to deposit money to the sawmillers. It could take about 3 months before we can have our consignment from the sawmills. And also, it's not their problem because they also find it difficult getting the timber from the forest. We've been talked about the timber procurement policy because when NDF, that's Nature and Development Foundation, was having workshops on the timber procurement policy, we were part of the training. So we know something about the timber procurement policy, and the policy, if implemented, will surely help to strengthen the VPA, because all government products or all government contracts should purchase from legal sources. So it will also help push the legality system so that it can also work very well for the country.
Kofi Afreboache is Chief Executive Officer of the Domestic Lumber Traders Association of Ghana, and he tells me why they are forced to trade in illegal timber.
When chainsaw was being banned, government just did not go to sleep. Government put in an intervention. I must be very sincere to say that. So about 79 sawmills were established, published in the Daily Graphic, in the National Bulletin, for people to know and identify their places as those places where we could go and find timber for the domestic market. That would replace the chainsaw. But sadly, all the 79 sawmills fizzled out in less than no time. So as a matter of fact, there was a shortfall. The domestic market players didn't have anywhere to go for legal timber. And Forestry Commission also didn't do anything about it. Did not even ascertain why all those sawmills have gone down. They did not do that. And so if demand and supply is at place, definitely, and the demand is stronger, definitely we will have to find a place of getting timber to meet the surging demand. So then the sawmill, the chainsaw was handy. What we are doing is for only domestic lumber trade association that is driving that agenda. So we have been initially we had wanted to import from British Guyana. We were there 2 times, and then later on, because of proximity, we visited Liberia. And Liberia, we realized that they have a lot of timber, and that is a place that we can source proximity and everything wise, and also species compatibility, so that if you have Udum here, you still have Udum in Liberia.
The Nature and Development Foundation, an entity known for its exceptional work in the timber industry, earlier predicted the importation of timber within the next few years due to the rate of forest depletion. We are back to speak to the director of the foundation, Mustafa Saidu, on how the ailing timber sector can be rescued.
We, as a country, consistently exceeded the amount we should be harvesting, what scientists call the sustainable level, because it's a renewable natural resources. We can predict that if you remove a certain amount of timber from the forest, that forest can rejuvenate itself continuously. However, if you remove more than, you will eventually exhaust the resource. So whilst Ghana's annual allowable cut says we're going to be able to remove about 1.5 million cubic meters, we're doing in excess of 3 million cubic meters, which shows that we are eating our cake faster than we are replenishing it. So eventually, one of the biggest challenges with the timber industry is the resource, the raw material, because of over the years higher consumption and wasteful processing. We ran out of the timber resources faster than we anticipated. So, and again, related to that, because the resource was very scarce, or getting scarce, there are a lot of illegalities as well. And you will agree with me that when it comes to illegality, one of the foremost in this country is the timber sector. So you hear the terms illegal logging, and then the chainsaw issues.
According to the Forest Legality Initiative, a Chatham House report notes that Ghana has made considerable efforts to protect its forest resources and curb illegal logging in recent years. These efforts have made Ghana a leader in forest management, but inconsistency, lack of transparency, a large amount of illegal logging remain. This is mainly due to the chainsaw milling sector, despite it being outlawed in 1998. Weak law enforcement, poor domestic production standards, and a large export market have continued to drive illegal chainsaw milling. One of such legislation is the timber procurement policy. Clement Kojo Akapam is with the Taylor Crabb firm, and he is one of the brains behind the draft timber procurement policy.
It was a policy that was initiated to help sanitize the domestic market when it comes to the trade of timber on the domestic market. It is on the back of government signing the voluntary partnership agreement with the EU, which requires that moving forward, government will put in certain mechanisms to ensure that when timber logs are exported to the European Union, they meet a certain criteria of legality. So to ensure that this commitment under the voluntary partnership is met, one of the moves that was put in place was the development of this timber procurement policy to help in stemming illegal trade in timber. Now, the main aim of the policy was to ensure or to get government to only procure legal timber for its works. We all know that government engages in a lot of procurement, building of schools, building of hospitals, building of railways. So the aim of the policy was to get government, that when government is engaging in such procurement processes for works, for buildings, for construction, the timber, the wood that they procure should only be legal timber.
The Executive Director of the Timber Industry Development Division of the Forestry Commission, Dr. Ben Donko, has this to say.
If you don't take a permit and you go into the bush to cut any tree, it's illegal. And for that, if you are caught, you will be punished by the law enforcement agencies. But you will agree with me that at night, we all go to sleep. And so if somebody gets into the forest at midnight to cut a tree and transport it before we all wake up, it becomes a problem trying to use the law. From our analysis, we realize about 50% of wood procurement go into government projects. And therefore, that's quite an amount. So if you are targeting a policy to fight illegal use of wood, it is only appropriate to tap into such an area with the hope that if it becomes successful, then at least you would have tackled near half of the problem of illegal logging.
But is this enough? The director of Nature and Development Foundation, Mustafa Saidu, made the following demands and suggestions to government and other stakeholders.
The first thing I think is that government should show leadership in the timber sector by putting it very clearly and taking action, either by passing this policy and backing it with legislation and saying that we will not consume illegally logged material. That's the first one. Second one is that government should increase its take and a seriousness in a business sense in the plantation industry.
They want government's intervention. Government should immediately trigger a plantation nationwide to ensure that the depleting forest is replaced. Government should also factor the regulation of the use of timber in the country. This, many believe, can only happen if we have a robust legal regime, including the implementation of the timber procurement policy, which is believed to be one of the panaceas to the woes of the timber industry. For City News, I am Anas Saidu.